Hi everyone. If you remember, we were looking last week at this beautiful piece of material and I made that sunset. That was to start with. And now we're going to be doing number 2. What else from this fabric? Well, I quite liked the idea that I saw these long strappy leaves in it. And I'm going to try something a little different this time. I found a scrap of my old fusible web. It is paper backed on one side and that's the smooth side, and the other side has the webbing or webbing of glue, and you place that down paper side up onto the back of the fabric, iron it, and then what you've got is a piece of fabric ready to go. It's been glued behind the paper, then gets peeled off, and then it can be placed down onto your fabric, you see. So at the moment I am going to just cut out some more of these deliciously strappy leaves that I can see. So the whole idea is that we use this fabric in 3 different ways to make 3 different pictures, all completely different. So as I said, the first one was maybe a sunrise, sunset, and this one we're going to just do a very naive kind of picture of these beautiful strappy leaves and a flower, maybe a tulip. Yeah, now you can get your border out. We're going to have 3 the exact same size, and just make sure how it sits nicely in there. So we're just at the design phase, figuring out how we like it. So you can muck around like that for a little while, and just until you've got it the way you think it should be. Now I don't think it's going to have the exact same colors as our previous work. Here it is, predominantly yellow and a nice green, but we did add in a few other little bits and bobs, and it ended up with a little bit of an aqua tinge as well. So now I'm just thinking, well, it doesn't really matter. I think it's going to go no matter what we do because we're using that same fabric. I can afford to bring in one other color maybe. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just sort of thinking here how I can set it out and cut off these bits that are too long there, you see. So here, I've chosen this colour. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, oh yeah, okay. Because they are like tulip leaves. And I have cut out these shapes from this fabric that's got a little bit of rosy colours in it. Rosy red or pale pink. It sort of blends in. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's a pretty good start. Something like that I think I can work with. And if you can see for composition there, I've gotten the 3. I've gotten none of them are in line. You know, they're all staggered, and I have there we go. Let's have a look at them 2 together. You see, completely different, but I think that they still match in with each other if you're going to pop them on a wall. So once I'm happy with the composition, I've used the leaves with the stripes facing up so it matches in with the idea of the strappy leaves. I put my tulips in, I've staggered them, not all in a line, if you can see. I've removed the paper from the back of the leaves and I've pressed it from the front there so that it's glued. So now I'm going to stitch. We've gotten to the stitching part. Now how are we going to make this interesting? Well, I'm going to start with finding a few greens, a little bit of yellow I suppose, because that other one was predominantly yellow looking, wasn't it? Some reds or peach colours, and see what ones I come up with. That's my starting point. That'll get me started anyway, give me something to get going on, and then we figure out as we go what we think would look good. Just grab some of this. This is one of my hand dyed ones, and I I just like the idea that we've got that variegated and it has that pinky rosy colour in it, but also it sort of fades then into a yellow. So I'm going to use that. That's pretty useful, I think, although it's a bit thick. So just off the edge here where it's not going to show, I'm just going to do 2 stitches on top of each other like that. It would be flatter than doing a knot. There. Have we done much blanket stitch yet? We start at the top and we use it as an edge, and we go in from there, down and to the right. I'm holding this out the way, so when I bring it through, it'll do that nice little edge. So I might just do a tiny bit of that and see how it looks. Don't have to do it everywhere. I don't think I'll do very much of it. This is a very coarse kind of thread to be doing it with. But I think I'll just do one side here with it. Because it's such a thick thread, I don't think I'd really want to be going through 2 lots of it. But it's made an interesting edge, so I'll keep it and we'll work with it and see where it leads. And then I think what's left on my needle there, just going to do a little running stitch. See, now that's already suggestive to me of something. So what it did suggest to me was that in the background, I think that I would like to do maybe some more pretend ones, shadows of it, suggestions of that same little cup kind of shape. So we're just starting with some simple tulip-like shapes in the background, in that variegated thread. Just putting it in to see what we think. So if you've ever looked at a tulip, you'll notice that it has these lines that sort of show you the outside petal is maybe starting to peel out towards the edge, so it has these little definitions in there. That's all I'm doing. Tulip shape with a few lines that just separate it out. And now I'm looking at this tulip below and I'm thinking, well, it's not really tulip shaped, that one. I've sort of done something. It needs a little something. So I'm using the same thread. I've gone down and I am just creating that separation again, like I said. And I'm bringing it up and I've sort of curved the edge of the top there, just to see how I might like it if it was a better shape up the top. So, and then whilst I've got my thick thread, I'm going to use some little seed stitches and I'm going to fill it in a little bit. And just to colour in some of that, I'm just going to do some random seed stitches. Later on I'll add in a bit more with other threads, but it's just to get that kind of, use up a bit of that thread that I wanted to use. So we made a start. And I think that's what this one's going to be themed as. You know, we've got tulips, and I'm going to do just a very naive kind of background with more. Okay. And I know what I meant to do. You can't just have that one little patch. I'll probably do this edge as well in that blanket stitch, because I've done it once somewhere. Otherwise it'll look like a mistake. We don't want that. When you are doing something, it's a good idea, like, not to have 1, 2, 3, you know, in line, but, you know, maybe I'll have that one down low or something like that. I don't know. So really, I'll just continue using the green, or, you know, sometimes a little bit of pink. And I'm going to do these stripes that are going up. Sometimes they're in the background, sometimes they're holding down my leaves, sometimes they're used to make veins in the leaf. And up here, I'm just taking this up as if it was a stalk. And I'm going to, when it gets to the top there, just make sure I put a couple of stitches into the bottom of that bud, so that it stays there and I remember that's where I want it. Maybe on this one I'm going to go down here, because I'll tell you why, I've threaded the pink end and now I've got the yellow end showing as the first bit that will be stitched with, and I won't get to the pink till at the other end, so I'm just using a bit of this yellow where it can best be noticed. And by the time I come back up towards the flower again, it's turned into a nice light pink and it's changing all the time. And now I've reached the top, I can use it to do a little bit more of that seed stitch to colour in that little area there. And I'm just going to start by going around these shapes and making them stay where they should be. That's a good start. And although I've changed down to a floss now, and I'm just using a couple of strands and a thinner needle, it's still quite tricky to pull it through sometimes, and that's because we're going through several layers, but also there is a layer of glue underneath that green leaf. That's why I don't tend to use the fusible web, because it just adds to that stiffness. So I will go around these shapes, a line down in the center here like this one is going to be, and that will be, you know, like petals. Sometimes I'll go outside the edges and just mix it up. Sometimes it'll be floss and sometimes it will be a nice pearl cotton, and I think you'll see how it's going. That was quite interesting. I don't think that mattered that we put a bit of pink in there. Now I'm just wondering if we can do something here. And what I was thinking was, I wonder if we could shade it a little bit. It's a little bit more delicately coloured than the others. But, you know, these rare ones in the background. And I'm just doing some little seed stitches in the gap, just like I did here. It's just little stitches that go each and every way. And this is a very pale colour, and I don't want it to be too much, stand out too much, but I want to try it and see what it would be like, because I thought it could be quite good. And where we have them close together, it will be darker, and up here where there's spaced more further apart, it'll look lighter because there'll be more light spaces showing in between, if you see what I mean. Quite a nice little experiment, that. I think we could use that a little bit, not too much, just a bit. Definitely going to be using it here to fill in that space and bring it out. Right, I've grabbed some teal colour out, and I think that will give it a little bit more oomph, because it's all sort of in the same range here. We've got some light, and we also need some dark. So now I'm grabbing some more colours that might be useful. We'll need some greens and maybe some aqua, some peach, some pinks, some red, something like that. And I'll be continuing on. I'm going to fill up this little space here and just use seed stitch and differing colours to see how that goes. That's filling up quite well. And whilst I've got this nice deep red, I'm going to do another running stitch outline of a flower in the background. And now I should really see, once I've done this, how it'll fit into my frame and which parts of it I need to concentrate on and which bits not, because they won't be showing. Alright, there we are. I continue on with my stitching, but whilst I'm looking at it, I think I might like to do something a little unusual. So where that tulip is there in the background, I'm extending that line out and over the green leaf. Can you see? Don't ask me why, I just felt like doing that. So it's looking quite good, but let's have a closer look at some of the stitching. You can see I've used some pink that's gone down into the green, and I've used that lovely teal. I've got some partial lines, I've got lines outside the edge, I've got lines on the edge, but it all makes a pleasant whole. And up here on this tulip, I filled a lot of it in with different stitches in seed stitch, and up above on those tulips I started to add the seed stitch in there too. They really are pretty jewel-like colours, but I decided at this stage I'm going to use some yellowy wheat kind of orange colour variation thread, and see how I've done those lovely little curly lines up the leaves in places. That'll help it blend in with the other picture too, that little touch more yellow. Now I've added some orange in and some dark crimsony colours, but I don't really like it up against each other. It needs a blending colour. Alright, well, finishing touches. Like, I think you can see what I've been going for. I've got some lovely lines, and when we haven't been doing lines and just that two little bits of blanket stitch, it's just seed stitch. See, highlighting this bit, and there we brought a little bit of the pink down into this, just mixing it up a little bit. I wish I had a nice rosy colour. I might have it in my shiny ones yet, but I might see, it worked well to put that pink that was in between the light pink and the dark there, and that helped that one. This one here, yeah, well maybe I might just use that to do a bit of something on that. Not much of it really showed, did it? So, but we'll give it a go. I also grabbed some nice shiny thread, and I pop that on the tulip in front, and it all starts coming together really nicely. There's my shiny thread, and I think that it's just about done. And I'm really thinking that it's bright and cheerful and happy and kind of naive. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed watching me, and will join me for number 3 using this fabric. My name's Tracey from Art Fibre Stitch, and I hope you've enjoyed watching this. If you have, do press like and subscribe to see my next one. And thank you for watching. If you're wanting to contact me or find me on the net, all of the links are below. Thanks again.